Hello and welcome to today's HIP Historian event. I am Brenda Holt with the Arizona State Office of AARP. We are the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live. In the month of February, we will focus on Black History Month. When you are a part of a Hello and welcome to today's HIP Historian event. I am Brenda Holt with the Arizona State Office of AARP. We are the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live. In the month of February, we will focus on Black History Month. When you are a part of a community, it's inspiring to see those who go above and beyond, not only to make it feel like home, but make it thrive. AARP believes the efforts of one person or one community can truly make an impact, but we combine our efforts for the greater good, we thrive together. We honor community leaders dedicated to coming together to transform, uplift, and educate communities. Visit us at aarp.org/Black Community to learn more. Thank you again, and with that, I'll turn it over to Marshall.
Welcome to the show. Get ready to meet your host for the night, Arizona's very own HIP historian himself, Marshall Shore.
Well, hello and good evening. I want to welcome you all to Arizona History Happy Hour. Oh my gosh, so happy that you all can be here as we get ready to have a lot of fun with some of you folks who are probably watching on, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So all kinds of places. I mean, I know Frank is probably watching on LinkedIn as we speak. So great to see you all this evening. Now, today is February 23rd. And so when we take a look at history or kind of stuff going on, so one thing I think is kind of interesting is, so today is Pinocchio Day, because back in 1940 on this day, Walt Disney released the movie Pinocchio. Now, you might wonder, what does that have to do with Arizona history? Well, if any of you ever remember going to Easley's costume shop or magic shop, well, Bert Easley was actually the live action model for Pinocchio. So he was dressed up as Pinocchio and he would move around for the Disney staff, and that's how Pinocchio got his movements. As well as his National Chili Day. You know, whether you go down the debate of beans, no beans, Cincinnati style, whatever, tomatoes, not tomatoes, you know, it's a great day. You know, and I think today was a little chilly, where it'd be kind of a good day to have some chili. Now, it is also National Curling Day. So curling combines ice skating, bowling, shuffleboard, and is one of the oldest sports teams around, or team sports around. It actually dates from the late medieval period off in Scotland. Now, we also are celebrating the Tootsie Roll, because back in 1907 was when it was developed back in Brooklyn, but the creator of it, Leo Hirschfeld, was born on this date 116 years ago. It is also World Understanding and Peace Day. Now, this commemorates the first meeting of Rotary International was held this day. And so we like to give a shout out to them. I've got lots of friends who are Rotarians. And so it is also, you know, I think it's always funny when, like, the diesel engine, who knew that it was actually credited to Rudolf Diesel? That's where the name came from. So he was granted a patent for that diesel engine back on February 23rd, 1893. So that's why today we celebrate a diesel engine. Oh my gosh. So lots of fun stuff going on. And, I can't wait to sit down and watch Pinocchio again. All right. So what can you expect from tonight? Well, we've got a little bit of trivia going on. We've got From the Vault, which is something you might drive by or walk by every day and just not know that it's there. We also have Little Arizona coming up, talking about a small town in Arizona, some music history, of course, as a beverage, and definitely a super special guest this evening. So, but more on that in just a moment. Now, if this is your first time watching, you might wonder, who is that man and why is he on my screen? Well, my name is Marshall Shore. I moved here a little over 23 years ago. I was working in Brooklyn at a beautiful Carnegie building and decided to trade all that snow, that slush, that biting wind for chilly 40-degree weather like we were having today, with a little blistering winds, but nothing quite as severe as that. And I was working in a library in South Phoenix that had this rich oral tradition of the community. And so really my first entrance into Arizona was hearing about other people's stories. Then we promptly moved into a beautiful 1956 ranch, and it is still pretty much a time capsule. There's what my kitchen looks like today. That oven still works like a charm. I just baked some eggplant in it the other day to kind of help warm the house up. Now, as soon as we got here, all I kept hearing about how there was no history here. But I realized every time I went for a bike ride, a car, a bus, a train, wherever I went, I kept coming across so many amazing people, places, and stories, and highlighting those. Now, my name is Marshall Shore. I also go by the Hip Historian. Now, you might wonder, what does that even mean, the Hip Historian? Well, it means I get to have fun with Arizona history and tell people about all kinds of fun events, such as coming up the first Saturday of March. Cloti, who was a guest on a few weeks ago, is going to be doing a musical celebration at the Laugh House in Heritage Square. So that's a day-long event, so that will definitely be worth checking out. Been doing things with Local Buzz, and we'll hear more about that in a little bit. We actually are going to be doing some filming with them this weekend. And also, if you get a chance, run out to Scottsdale Public Library, and you can see Rip Woods, who was a local artist, teacher, educator, and so much more. There is a great display of his work and some of his former students' work as well. And then excited to say that this Saturday, in just 2 days, we have hats and high tea at the Pioneer Cemetery and it's going to be a fundraiser for reservation, and it is officially sold out. And then, oh my gosh, just almost a month away is Arizona Unzipped, an Arizona history lesson told through burlesque. So that will be an amazing presentation at the Orpheum Theater. It's the first time there has been burlesque since 1935. And then, of course, coming up on March 4th is the Melrose Street Fair. And we'll definitely be talking something about that in just a few minutes. So I see some of you already have found the chat. So thank you so much. I love hearing from you all. If you do find something you want to say afterwards, maybe you have a great suggestion, please reach out, and you can reach out through Facebook, Instagram, email, or even through my website. And, it would not be happy hour without a beverage. And so PJ, because we're going to be talking about 7th Avenue, came up with the Uptown Girl Midtown Lassi, which is a take on the East Indian Mango Lassi. So let's see. All right. So Silent Bob has to do a little bit of work. He just has to take the jar, tip it over, and there we go. A delightful cocktail. Oh, and it's easy to see why this is on the menu at Belly. It is sure tasty. All right. Now, Little Arizona. So, it's like when okay. So we should first go to the location. So, whenever I'm out in Wickiup, I see a sign for a little town called Baghdad. And I've never taken the time to go down that little road and go visit Baghdad. So I thought, well, let's learn about Baghdad. And so first off, you've got that name Baghdad. Now, it was founded back in 1910, has a population currently of over 2,200 people live in Baghdad. Now, it is indeed a mining town. Now, there are thoughts about, there's a rumor that it got named Baghdad because it was a father-son mining operation and they would be bagging things up and the son would holler Baghdad, but we know that's not true. There were thoughts it might have ties to the Middle East, but that is not true either. But we do know, so W.J. Pace and J.M. Murphy filed a Baghdad claim back on January 1st of 1882. Now, even though it was discovered back then, its remoteness, which you'll remember from this map there, is indeed in the middle of nowhere. So really not much happened with it because it was so expensive to get the ore and everything out of there. It is still functioning today. It is the third largest mine in the country and currently has operations to plan through the 22nd century. So that's kind of exciting. It is run by and Freepat McMoran, which is based out of Phoenix. And when it's going at peak functionality, 250 million pounds of copper can be pulled out of this mine annually. So there's a lot going on in this little town of Baghdad. And so there's a little statue made out of iron rods to commemorate the Baghdad claim as it was put in. There's what Baghdad looks like today. And you can go learn about the history through the Baghdad Museum, which I definitely now know. I know there's a museum there. I need to swing by. And next time out in Wickiup, make that turn and go visit the museum. All right. So now we get to a point where you get to hear from someone else, not just me. So I want to bring on our very special guest, Brad. Hello.
Oh, hello.
So, Brad, for folks that don't know a lot about you, tell us about yourself.
My wife, Kat, and I own Short Leash Hot Dogs, and we are located right here in the heart of the Melrose District, which I know is what we're going to talk about a lot here this evening. We have grown our business here. We've lived in the valley here for 22 years. We bought a little house in North Park Central, which is just adjacent to Melrose. We've been in this little home for 19 years and just absolutely love it. And
that's like this house. Been here like 19 years, kind of that same thing.
Yeah. So we love the Central Phoenix neighborhood, and we love living here. We planted our roots here and built our business here. So we are definitely tied to this area. More ways than one.
And yes, indeed. All right. So we are going to do a little bit of trivia. Now, with our trivia, it's a little different than you do bar trivia because it's more about the answers than just kind of here's the answer and move on to the next thing.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll go through all 10 questions. Now, people can keep track of the trivia maybe in a notebook, maybe on an arm with some mustard or ketchup. You could write them on your leg and then have a dog lick them off. Who knows the options? So, all right. Some folks even keep track of it in the chat as well.
Okay.
So, all right. So our first question of the evening is, why is there a curve on 7th Avenue between Camelback and Indian School? Is it A, inebriated construction crew error? Is it B, the curvature of the canal caused it? C, a modern correction for a late 19th century error? Or D, all of the above? Oh, well, we'll see what people guess. Interesting. All right. So, question 2. The Melrose District hosts an annual street fair every March called the M7 Street Fair. How many years has the street fair been held? Is it A, 4 years, B, 8 years, C, 14 years, or D, 20 years? Oh my gosh. All right. But regardless, it's become a tradition in Melrose. All right. Question 3. The Melrose District prides itself on diversity of businesses and diverse populations. What is the key factor? A, the Melrose District is often referred to as the Gayborhood. B, surrounded by light rail. C, the Melrose District is over a mile long. D, it's bifurcated by Grand Canal. Or E, all of the above. All right. So, question 4. Brad and Kat's business, Short Leash Hot Dogs and Donuts, started in 2010 as what? A, a restaurant on Roosevelt and First Street. B, a food truck at the Phoenix Public Market. C, a hot dog stand in the Arizona Diamondbacks ballpark. Or D, a high-end fine dining establishment. Fancy hot dogs, those would be.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. Question 5. The 1950 building where Short Leash is located originally had 2 different businesses in it. What were they? A, taxidermist and law office. B, children's daycare and donut shop. C, Italian restaurant and shoe cobbler. Or D, psychic and pharmacy. Oh, some interesting options there. So we shall see, what did that building with Short Leash in it now, what did it originally hold? All right, question 6. North Park Central is a neighborhood in the Melrose District and is interesting. Why? A, built as housing for workers building new city of Phoenix streets. B, considered to be the first tract home development in Phoenix. C, was a cattle ranch. Or D, was considered to be uninhabitable due to the heat. Well, there are days where that could be valid.
There are moments.
There are always those moments where it's like, oh my gosh, why are we here?
Why are we here?
So, all right, question 7. Short Leash Hot Dog has a hot dog called the Bear with peanut butter, bacon, smoked Gouda, barbecue sauce, Cracker Jacks. And why does this exist? Is it A, to honor the Netflix show called The Bear? B, refers to the song Take Me Out to the Ball Game? C, only large hairy men are allowed to order it? See, there we go, back to that Gayborhood comment.
Right. We are in Melrose.
Indeed, right in Melrose. Or D, because they got into some edibles.
Common misconception. Common misconception, that one.
We should have had an E, all of the above. All right. Question 8. In 2010, what was the food truck industry like here in the Metro Phoenix area? A, non-existent. B, oversaturated with gourmet food truck operators. C, comprised of only a few traditional operators catering to construction sites. Or D, all were owned by one individual. So what do you think? Gosh, back in 2010, the food truck scene, that was only 23 years ago. No, 13 years ago.
13, yeah. It was,
much Flamingo Lassie, I guess.
Don't make me that old.
Well, you must have started this when you were 5. So
That's right.
All right. Question 9. Why have food trucks become so commonplace today? And why has the industry grown so quickly? A, it's a great incubator for aspiring restaurateurs. B, low barrier cost of entry, cost of time. C, can be a full-time occupation or a side hustle. Or D, Phoenix metro area offers great climate for food trucks all year round. Or could it be E, all of the above? All right, and here we are at the last question. If you were to give advice on aspiring food truck owners, what would you say? A, don't do it. Find another passion. Do something else. B, this is a young person's endeavor. Oh, Brad, you're still young. C, plan, plan, plan. What do you really need from the business? D, go for broke. It'll all work out in the end. And those would all be some good advice, but we'll see what Brad thinks is the good piece of advice. So while you are all locking in your final answers, so we are going to go on and do a little bit of music trivia. So sad to say, yesterday, Jack Curtis passed away. He was born in 1943. He was a concert promoter, a songwriter, record label owner, music producer, newspaper entertainment columnist, TV host, teen club owner, operator, and publicist. Now, to many folks out there, they might know him as the man who discovered Alice Cooper. He helped the career of so many artists throughout the Valley and even on a national scale. In 1960, he began a local American bandstand show called The Jack Curtis Show on Channel 3. In 1967, he closed his Stage 7 and it became the VIP Club. He wound up closing that because it was so popular that his little parking lot would not accommodate all the folks who wanted to go and visit. Now, his accolades could go on and on, so I'm sure there will be some sort of memorial, all kinds of things honoring him and his legacy of what he's done for music in the Valley. So thank you, Jack, for all that you've done. All right. And who is ready for some answers? I'm sure Brad is ready for some answers. All right. So why is there a curve on Melrose between Camelback and Indian School?
You know, there's a lot of debate around this because there's the old myth of, surveying error from the north side and the south side caused it. I think you came and talked to the Melrose Merchants Association once, and you presented a great option where there was two property owners who had kind of overlapping property lines, and those kind of cutting the corner of both of them, would basically mitigate how much property they had to give up for road construction. I thought that was incredible one. But to we were just talking about this before the show. You discovered that actually the curve has gone through multiple iterations of where
and locations.
What's that?
And locations.
Yeah. What I think you said there were 4 different ones.
Yes, there are 4 different curves, 2 locations. At the very end of the show, we always end on a video. Oh, okay. And Ed Dobbins did a great kind of overview of the history. He stuck with it and did more work than I had done on it. And cool. So it's a great kind of here's why.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So there's always
so much debate about this, and there's always so many different theories on it. But yeah, it's just a modern correction at some point. And most recently, I think you said it was 19. What was the year you said the most? So
the current curve was 1947.
Okay. So that would have been right before the construction of like our neighborhood. So
yeah, and so actually it was Womack who did the curve because he was the one building the homes, and so he kind of. I think initially it was more of a dangerous curve because of the shape of it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And so by lengthening it and softening the curve, it was less of a hazard to folks.
Right.
All right. The Melrose District hosts an annual street fair every March called the M7 Street Fair. How many years has it been going on?
So the street fair is coming up. It is next Saturday, March 4th. And this will be our 20th year, if you can believe it. And that's
wow! I remember the very first one. Oh my gosh, I can't believe.
Yeah, I remember when Kat and I moved. Like I said earlier, we moved into this house 19 years ago, and we moved in and saw the street fair happening and walked down there and checked it out, and been going ever since. So yeah, it's unbelievable to think that it's been 20 years in the making. So
That's just
yeah,
crazy.
but it's such a fantastic event. We close down 7th Avenue from Indian School all the way up to Campbell. So it is a half a mile stretch. We have this year, I think we have 250 arts and crafts vendors. We have a main stage. We have a beer garden from Wren House Brewing. We have a classic car show. And then also adjacent to that, all the restaurants and bars tend to do their own fun things. So like on our parking lot, we have bands of our own. We do like a little classic Vespa and motorcycle show. I know Stacy's always does a big event on his property. So it's not only the street fair, but it's kind of all the adjacent activities that happen as well. So it's a great time.
And it's so much fun because everybody comes out for it.
Oh, it's so much fun. Yeah, it's so much fun.
I mean,
it's
that's what
too. Like everybody can just come with their kids and hang out. We have we're really excited this year, not to go on too much about it, but we've got some great kids activities this year too. So we have a mobile puppet theater.
Stacey's going to be there. Yay. I have not seen it in play. I haven't seen it in person. I've only seen photos. So I'm excited.
Yeah, she's doing it. And we also have a trampoline show. We have the adult beer garden. This year we're going to do a kids root beer garden. So we just have a whole bunch of fun stuff.
I was going to say a kids beer garden.
No, kids root beer lemonade garden. It's going to be fantastic. So yeah, we're so excited to host this again. So.
Oh, and then Scarlett's saying that her dad owns some of the land. Her grandfather owned some of the land between 7th Avenue and Indian School. And so, yeah. So, I mean, there's all kinds of stories about that whole area.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why I got a booth this year, just because it's so much easier. I will be stationary. So come on by, say hi.
Hi.
So look forward to meeting some of you. You know, it's so funny. I was just at an event at AESU last week, and a woman come up to me and say, hey, we're Facebook friends. We had never met, but yeah. So please come by and say hi. I'm actually going to be down near Short Leash.
I do love that about Phoenix. It does kind of have a small town vibe. It's like I don't feel like you can go anywhere without kind of bumping into somebody that you know, or an acquaintance, or somebody that you've met. And I think that's, despite the size and scale of Phoenix, it always, especially this downtown, corridor, uptown area, just feels like we always colliding with people that we know. And it's a great feeling to have that.
And folks come in kind of like packs. So it's a great way to also, somebody, and you get to meet all their friends that are doing the street fair as well.
Absolutely.
All right. So the Melrose District prides itself on diversity of businesses and populations. What is the key factor? Oh, and it's all of the above.
All of the above. Yeah, I think, it's Melrose is so unique, in my opinion, just because of we are kind of surrounded on the east side and the north side with light rail, which makes it very accessible with multiple stops and easy to walk. It's often been called the Gayborhood just because we do have a lot of fantastic bars on 7th Avenue that are very inclusive. That's what this whole neighborhood really prides itself on is. Anybody and everybody is welcome to come and enjoy themselves and hang out and feel comfortable in who they are. And I think it's one of the things that really makes our area truly unique and wonderful.
Wayne, and people can not just take light rail or drive there, but you can ride your bike on the canal to get there.
Yeah.
So
the canal cuts right through, and they've done an amazing, if you haven't experienced it lately, the Canalscape project is unbelievable. It's so expansive and beautiful, and it's lit up at night. A lot of the property owners there along the canal have allowed artists to do murals on those on the backs of their walls, so that's fantastic too, just to go and check those out. And then the city just recently did that fantastic bike lane going up 3rd Avenue. Comes all the way from basically downtown straight up all the way to the canal, which is unbelievable. If there's any bike riders out there, I encourage you to check it out because it is they did a fantastic job with that.
It's so much easier to get there now on bike.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, Brad, you and Kat's business Short Leash Hot Dogs and Donuts started in 2010 as what?
Yeah, we just started a little food truck in 2010. It was we started down at the Phoenix Public Market. We thought we would just do it as a little side hustle, and just through amazing community support and good timing and lots of hard work, we've just been very, very fortunate to parlay it into what it is today. Um, for many years, I've often told the story that like our first day in business, we did the Phoenix Public Market. It was a Saturday morning, and we weren't sure what we were going to do because of the early morning hours. And so we had a little breakfast special kind of thing that we concocted. And one of our first customers was Stacy Sullivan, who was the food and lifestyle editor at the Republic. The next Saturday was our second day in business. He sent a reporter out to do a little feature on us. And then after that, it was just, we just great timing, again, great support. And it kind of took off after that. So a little bit of luck involved too.
Indeed. And weren't you on a TV show or something?
Yeah, we actually got to do it. We've been fortunate enough to do a few different TV shows, a couple on the Cooking Channel, PBS Check Please. So yeah, we've had some good press along the way, and that's always a good thing for a small business.
Indeed. All right. So back in 1950, the building you're currently in on the Melrose Curve was originally two different businesses. And I think this is just so funny.
I think this is one of the coolest things. So yeah, the little building that we are in currently, it was one half was an Italian restaurant. The other half was a shoe cobbler. It was a husband and wife duo, and she ran the restaurant and he was the cobbler. And from what I understand, they even kind of lived in the back section where the kitchen is now. That was their residence. Yeah. So kind of the building served, multiple purposes. And over the years, until you showed me that slide before the show, I didn't even know what the name of the Italian restaurant was. I always thought it was Silvia's, which I think was Silvia's, which is another iteration of an Italian restaurant that was there.
And so what I loved about this was it was like they had the same name for the House of Shoes as well as the pizza place.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think that's so fantastic. I can't believe you found that. That's incredible. I got to get a copy of that. I'll put it up in the restaurant as like a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. We should frame that and put it up for sure.
We can definitely make that happen.
Yeah. That is such a cool image.
All right. So North Park Central is a neighborhood in the Melrose District. And why is it interesting?
We are considered one of the first, if not the first, one of the first tract home developments in Phoenix. And so, if you think about, just south of us is, I think, was it North Campus, near Phoenix College, and then go a little further south. There's, you've got Willow, Woodley, Melrose, north of us, Grandview. When you drive through those neighborhoods, all the homes are very unique. They were kind of semi-custom built, for whoever the property owner was. And from our understanding, and I think most of our houses were built in between 1950 and about 1953. But it was one of the first developments where they basically gave you, here's your 3 floor plans, pick one. So, they're there's 251 homes in our little neighborhood, but they have all very much got a very specific kind of simple ranch style shoebox, which is why we love the house, because we're DIYers and it was kind of easy for us to work on. But yeah, it's kind of it's a cool little neighborhood just because of, you go through and there's a little bit of uniformity, and there's definitely a kind of an aesthetic there.
Right. Like, I'm over in Melrose Estates, and actually my neighbor's house, their house is just like ours, but it's been flipped.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And so you find little subtle variations like that, but that's pretty much about it.
Yeah. I think they just offered, I think it was just 3 floor plans, and that was it. So it's pretty straightforward.
Well, because I'm sure it was cheaper to build just because you didn't have so many custom features.
Yeah.
So they probably could get houses out quicker. That would have been when we were in a housing boom, and they just needed so much housing. So it was quicker to build and probably cheaper.
Yeah, probably much cheaper. Yeah. We have a few residents that were still the original homeowners. Yeah. They're
wow.
It's pretty incredible. So or their
Yeah.
or their parents were the original owners. We've got a few families here that have been around that long. It's incredible.
And then Willie is talking about Grandview and how in 51 they had 4 models.
Oh, really? Okay.
So yeah, so that was exactly the time when they said, hey, let's actually save some funds.
Yeah. I always think about envision this would have been the suburbs, right? I mean, that's
people would have considered this like North Phoenix.
Yeah, and so that's just incredible for me to think about, just spatially, because
right now we're now like Central Phoenix, so.
100%.
All right, so the Bear has all kinds of interesting things on it, and why?
So it is B. It refers to the song "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." So we had been in business about 1.5 years, maybe, with the food truck, and it was opening day for the D-backs, and we were invited to do a hot dog contest, and it was us, little hot dog truck at the time, and they invited a couple very well-known chefs here in the Valley. So Eddie Matney was one, and James Porter was the other, to come and basically do kind of a little hot dog standoff type thing. So Kat, in her brilliance, she said, you know what, I want to make a hot dog that has peanuts and Cracker Jacks on it. And we must have made, and I probably tasted 30 different variations. And then this one when we came up with it, I was like, oh man, that is truly awesome. And so it won that day, which we were very, very proud of. And so yeah, now it's a permanent fixture, and that's the one that's been featured on the Cooking Channel a couple different times. And yeah, it sounds weird, but as I always say, if you like Thai food, it kind of marries together like a Thai peanut sauce. There's nothing sweet or crazy, but yeah, once you try it, it all makes sense.
Indeed.
Yeah. But everybody often thinks we had too many edibles, so that's like, how did you come up with this? You must have been partaking in something, but no, it was all
not just ODing on peanut butter. All right, back in 2010, what was the food truck industry like here in the Valley?
It was comprised of only a few traditional operators. So you had Ralph's Catering, and you had Industrial Catering, and they were really kind of your traditional food trucks that just catered to construction sites. It was, houses were being built so quickly, and they would, go out to the East and West Valley and places like that where they had big construction sites, and that's kind of what they catered to. And so when we started our little food truck, it was, coming back to a little bit of luck and good timing. We started right before the Great Food Truck Race TV show started. So I think we've been in business about 6 or 8 months when that TV show started, and started to raise the awareness of the gourmet food truck scene. And it's taken off since then. But yeah, just kind of that traditional food truck type construction type catering at the time.
Indeed, we cannot say that now.
No, it's unbelievable. I can't keep up with them all now.
I know it's like there's so many that it's like it seems like every time I go somewhere there's a new one.
Yeah,
which is great. All right, so why have food trucks become so commonplace today, and the industry has grown so quickly?
It is a combination of all of those things. I mean, quite honestly, I always say it is a great incubator for somebody. So we are a perfect example. We did not have any sort of real culinary or restaurant background. We started ours as kind of a side hustle because it was kind of during the housing crisis when, recovery was happening, or we were kind of in the throes of it. And so we just thought, we'll start this as kind of a little side hustle and kind of learn the business a little bit. And I think a lot of people approach it that way. So, and then the other, it is inexpensive to get into versus a restaurant. We all know construction for a restaurant is one of the most expensive things to build, but to build a food truck, and if you don't do it, coming back to one of the other points, if you don't do it on a full-time basis, you can kind of, cherry pick events, or just do it on the weekends. And if it's parked in your driveway, or your overhead's minimal, you're not having to pay utilities and things like that like you would for a building. So I think it's a great opportunity for people to kind of get their feet wet in a business, see if their concept works, see if they can gain some traction with kind of what their vision is. And I also say that at the worst case scenario, you own an asset that you can turn around and sell and recoup a lot of your investment. Or even yet, if one concept's not working, you can peel the vinyl wrap off of it and call it something else and roll out a new menu the next week. So,
Oh, that is funny because that would be very true because could
it
easily
it gives you a lot of flexibility. Yeah, if you're doing something and it's not capturing people's imagination or inspiring them, then you can try a different concept.
Exactly.
Seen a few people do that before. So,
because I'm sure you've seen it all with food trucks, pretty much.
Oh yeah. I've seen just about everything you can see.
All right, and then our last question. So, Brad, if you're going to give advice to aspiring food truck owners, what would you tell them?
I think I kind of approach it like any business. I always tell people when they're first getting started and they ask me that kind of a question, I always say, really think about, kind of use the idea of like, where do you see yourself in 5 years kind of idea. So I always, if your idea is you want to take your food truck concept and grow it into a restaurant, and you want that restaurant to be, in the Melrose district, for example, I would concentrate all of my efforts and that's kind of what we planned. So we concentrate all of our efforts in the central Phoenix area, like the public market. And we started off, outside of Shady's Bar on Indian School and 24th Street. So we kind of stuck within kind of a 5-mile radius. But then there are other people that, they want to own multiple trucks. So they might want to, spread themselves out a little bit more and travel all over the place. So, just kind of say plan, but it is a hustle sport. It is a young person's sport. It is not for the faint of heart. And, the only time that it's really brutal is those summer months. You're in a metal box with a whole bunch of cooking equipment and it's 110 degrees outside. Those are some difficult times, but, we really have, 9 months of great weather, which you can, be out there as frequently as you want to be. So
I'm also glad you gave a shout out to Shady's because I love the fact that they have a food truck almost always right out in front. So that way you can go have something in your stomach before you go in and have some cocktails.
Yeah. We would do the Phoenix Public Market and we'd do Shady's on Thursday nights. And those were kind of our main stomping grounds. We're right in this area and, doing lots of things downtown. The Melrose Street Fair, once we did start our business, we were there every single year. So we really concentrate our efforts in the central Phoenix kind of downtown area. So when the opportunity arose and we were looking to, make that next jump, Roosevelt was a perfect place for us. And we were there for 5 years. And now we've moved up closer to our house in walking distance. And
oh, nice.
Yeah. Well, it'll mark 5 years here in July.
Wow.
We've been in the Melrose building. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
That's great. I remember you guys opened up in that space.
Yeah, we love it. It's a fantastic location, and it's really worked out well for us.
All right. So I always like to ask people how they did and realize that it's not so important in terms of what all you got right, but look at the stories. But Brad, one thing we didn't talk about is how did you get the name Short Leash? Where does that name come from?
When we were kind of planning our business, we weren't 100% sure what kind of food we wanted to do. And so, not having, a real culinary background, our thought was two things. Like one, let's pick a food that is fairly easy to execute. Number one. And when we thought about hot dogs, I said, okay, well, I'm fine with, I like this idea, but let's really trick them out. Like every hot dog vendor has, ketchup, mustard, relish, the onions, the basics. And so I thought, let's really kind of make these truly unique. Let's really, you want that wow factor. And so we started kind of playing with some different combinations and variations. And then we ran into the problem of, we have these massive hot dogs with all this stuff on it. And a traditional bun just was a terrible vehicle for it. Like you'd take one bite and everything would just fall out the bottom.
Right.
So then that kind of prompted us, okay, we need to go out and find like the perfect bread that will hold up well from start to finish. Which is when we found the naan. We're like, oh, this is perfect, and it wrapped up well for the truck. And so, And and then we just kind of were spitballing ideas. And I think Kat said, she said something, we were talking about dog themes, and she said something about short leash. And then she said, keep your hunger on a short leash. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. And then she drew a caricature of our dog, Oliver. And so that's our logo.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's very much, kind of us, kicking around fun ideas and being creative, and her being creative and talented that way.
So, and I don't think I ever shared. So my first real job, like out of high school, was actually at a brick and mortar hot dog place.
Was it really?
Yeah. So it was like I think it was they served the Vienna because they were really trying to mirror like that classic ballpark frame.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
okay.
So steaming the buns and everything else and all these things. And so, yeah. So
and,
that was
and where was this? In
that was back in Lafayette, Indiana.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So.
I think it's funny because to that, like everybody, I think food is in general is very nostalgic for people, right? I think, when you conjure up ideas and think about food, especially, I wouldn't have thought people would have been so passionate about hot dogs, but people in Chicago, don't you dare put ketchup on it. And
oh, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. I think up in the Northeast, they have someone called a Ripper, which is like a beef hot dog. They kind of cook it in like peanut oil on the grill and and it's almost like almost fried. So yeah, just all the different variations we've heard over the years is just kind of, it's astounding. And it's cool though that people, they really have that personal connection to food.
Yeah, because I remember sometimes we would try to just kind of play around. I know one point we like deep fried a hot dog.
Yeah.
And so all these, and again, it's so easy to trick out because there's so much flavor there that you can play with.
Yeah, 100%.
So
and technically a hot dog is a sandwich, so
it's easy to eat, so you can eat on the go.
Yeah, categorically, it's a sandwich. Even Ruth Bader Ginsburg said that. So yeah.
So yeah, okay. So March 4th is the M7 Street Fair.
Yep.
So where does it take place again?
So it is on 7th Avenue. So we close off 7th Avenue from Indian School all the way to Campbell. So just right before it hits the canal. And it is open and free to the public. I encourage you honestly, just park anywhere in the neighborhoods. You can find a parking spot. Light rail is a great option. It's a short walk from Indian School and Central Light Rail stop. Just don't park in front of anybody's driveway, please. But just come and have a good time and bring the family. And it's an all day event. It starts at 11, finishes at 5. The weather's, knock on wood, the weather has always been gorgeous for that day.
Right.
So yeah, we're expecting another amazing turnout.
Very good. Well, I look forward to seeing you there, Brad. I know it's going to be a fun day. I know last year I was so hoarse afterwards. I had spent the entire day talking. So, but completely worth it.
It is a big endeavor, but yeah, it is a wonderful day. And it's great to see so many people from the neighborhood and come and hang out and have a great time.
Andy, well, Brad, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to help talk about 7th Avenue, the street fair, and kind of your entrepreneur spirit.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will see you
I'll see you a week from Saturday.
Exactly. I'm like coming up. All right. Have a good night.
You too. Take care.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Brad. That was so much fun. And so now as we get ready to do From the Vault, so one thing I did want to talk about, since we were kind of talking about the canal and there's a bridge, and so you'll learn, if you stick around for the very end for Ed's piece on kind of why that plays a part of it, I was going to talk about another common place that people might not realize. So if you're ever at this corner of Camelback and 40th Street, so if you're going northbound, you will go over a bridge over the canal, but you'll probably will never notice that there's a little plaque there that says SPB Cudia. And it's a plaque from the city thanking him for, in 1961, erecting this bridge. So you might wonder, who was he? Why did he do it? And so Salvatore Cudia was a snappy dresser. That's him all the way over on the right. I think last week we were talking about bolos, and I immediately thought of this photo because that bolo he has on is just so exceptional. I'm like, look at that. It's so cool. And so anyway, so he opened up a film studio that was located right there. Kutia City, that ran from 39 up until like 59, 60. And so there were various TV shows, movies that were made there, but that's kind of, there now is a subdivision called Kutia City. That is some of the remaining that was sold off with some of the land from that. The original kind of sound stage is where Chelsea's Kitchen is now. And so whenever you're crossing over there, I love to just kind of think about what it would have been like when in this photo, Camelback was a dirt road, not even paved yet. All right. Oh, and then also, as later time went on, it became a venue. They did dinner theater. And this is actually one of the scrims when you sat down for dinner, they would have at the theater. All right. So as we get ready to say good night, I will ask you, if you're watching on Facebook, we should click on share, because look at how much fun we had just talking about some Arizona history. And we always have that much fun, if not more. Now, next week, we have Roger Naylor, who is a author about Arizona history and all kinds of fun stuff. So that is going to be a great show. I very much look forward to having Roger on. That will be a lot of fun. And always, I want to say, please, love to hear from you. So please send me notes, whatever. I love to hear from you all. I think it's just so interesting. People have some great ideas. I know some have been saying, hey, what about this? So that's always a lot of fun. I love to give a shout out to Chris and Cole, who did that intro video, and always for PJ, who keeps me lubricated for the show. And as we say good night, I do want to share Ed Dobbins' History of Phoenix and why there is a curve on Melrose. All right. So everyone, I will see you next Thursday night with Roger as we bounce around Arizona. So have a good night, and I will see you next week.
Most major streets in Phoenix don't have curves, and the few that do usually avoid geographical features, but not 7th Avenue between the Grand Canal and Indian School Road. The double curve in this area doesn't avoid any obstacles. Its origin can be found in the history, not geography, of the area. The landmark S-curve on 7th Avenue is the solution to a problem that was created in the 19th century when two surveys didn't meet as expected just north of the Grand Canal. The path of 7th Avenue near the canal has been reconfigured at least 4 times since 1885 to correct this misalignment. The most recent was in 1947 when the current Melrose curve was designed. 7th Avenue was created in 1871 to access the road to Wickenburg from the northwest corner of the Phoenix town site at 7th Avenue and Van Buren. It was supposed to head due north along the section line, but veered off course. By the time 7th Avenue reached the old highway, it was about 380 feet west of the section line it was meant to follow. This mistake became a concern in 1885 when another section line survey was made north of the Wickenburg Road, and the new 7th Avenue did not align with the old 7th Avenue between Camelback Road and the Grand Canal. The first solution to the 7th Avenue misalignment was known locally as the Jog on Black Canyon Road, which was the name for 7th Avenue at the time. Instead of building a new bridge, county supervisors directed travelers along the north side of the canal between the new section line road and the old bridge on the old 7th Avenue. 8 years later, in 1893, the owner of the land wanted the jog moved off his property. He offered to donate a portion of his land for a road if the county would build a new wagon bridge to cross the canal at the section line. The county agreed and moved the jog about a quarter-mile south of the Grand Canal to near Glen Rosa Avenue, creating jog number 2 on the misalignment. By 1920, improvements to the county roads for automobiles led to the third correction, the first 7th Avenue S-curve. The new solution smoothed the right-angle turns of the jog into a continuous route with 2 curves. Each curve was contained within the first block to either side of Glen Rosa Avenue, to Montecito Avenue on the north and Heatherbury Drive on the south. As automobiles improved and speed limits increased, the S-curve became too tight to be safely navigated, and this stretch of 7th Avenue gained a reputation as a high accident area. In response to complaints about the safety of the road, the sharp curves were replaced in 1947 with longer, safer curves. The full length of the segment was extended from near Roma Avenue on the north to Mackenzie Drive on the south. Both the new S-curve and the north half of the old 1920 curve can be seen on this 1949 aerial. Today, 7th Avenue from McDowell Road north to the curve still follows the route that veered off the section line in 1871. The configuration of the Melrose curve has not significantly changed since it was built over 75 years ago in 1947. Unique intersections and islands of land created by the 19th century misalignment have greatly contributed to the interesting character of the neighborhoods along 7th Avenue in central Phoenix.
So thank you all so much, and I will see you next week. And be sure and put March 4th on your calendar for the Melrose Street Fair, or M7, celebrating 20 years. Have a good night.